What if I told you that the Golden State Warriors are on the verge of making a decision that could shake not only the present of the franchise, but its entire future? What if I told you that one of the most intriguing and explosive young talents ever to set foot on the Chase Center might be living his final days wearing the legendary blue and gold jersey? In a franchise known for cold and calculated decisions, this might be the most delicate move since the dawn of the Stephen Curry era. The Warriors' story is defined by chapters that completely altered their path. Decades ago, the team became known for instability, poorly calculated trades, and always living in the shadow of the league's biggest markets. But everything started to change at the beginning of the last decade when they made one of the most important decisions in franchise history, trading Monta Ellis, the most popular player on the roster, for Andrew Bogut, a center from Milwaukee who many viewed as nothing more than a consolation prize. But it was then and there that the seed was planted for the team that, in just a few years, would win 4 championships and forever change the way basketball is played. And it didn't stop there. When Kevin Durant decided to leave the team after the 2019 NBA Finals, the franchise didn't flinch. They turned the departure of a superstar into a bridge to the future by acquiring D'Angelo Russell, who would later be traded for Andrew Wiggins and a draft pick that eventually became Jonathan Kuminga. A full circle, guided by patience and vision. Every player who leaves, every piece that arrives, shapes not only the present of the franchise, but more importantly, its future. And that's where Kuminga's name returns to the spotlight. The young forward, blessed with rare athleticism and flashes of brilliance, is living a season that could very well be his true introduction to the NBA. After years of fluctuating between limited minutes and explosive performances, he finally seemed to have found his place in Steve Kerr's rotation, averaging 16.8 points, 5 rebounds, and over 2 assists per game. And it wasn't just about the numbers. It was about impact. His presence on the court often shifted the game's rhythm, bringing energy, explosiveness, and defensive versatility. But fate, once again, had surprises in store. In February, the Warriors front office decided to go all in and acquired none other than Jimmy Butler, a move that reignited the franchise's ambitions and immediately reshaped the rotation. Since Butler's arrival, the team has enjoyed its best stretch of the season, posting an impressive 23-9 record. On the court, the fit was almost instant. Butler became the perfect complement to unlock Stephen Curry, boosting the defense and elevating the team's competitive ceiling. But every decision comes at a price, and this time, it was Kaminga who paid the bill. His minutes began to plummet dramatically, dropping from over 26 minutes per game to less than 18 in recent weeks. Over the last 7 games, that number fell to a concerning 17.9 minutes, the lowest since his rookie year. The breaking point came during the matchup against the Los Angeles Clippers, when, amid an electrifying game where Curry and Butler combined for 66 points, Kaminga never even left the bench. A silent message, but loud enough to echo across the NBA. After the game, Steve Kerr was straightforward. In his interview, the coach revealed the difficulty of fitting Kaminga alongside Draymond Green and Jimmy Butler, highlighting the lack of spacing and the tactical needs that forced him to make tough decisions. According to Kerr, the combination simply didn't work, and the team had to prioritize the lineups that secured wins. A cold, rational choice, but one that opened the floodgates for rumors and speculation. And that's precisely when the Brooklyn Nets name reemerged as a potential destination. A franchise living through a period of transition, yet armed with young, rising talents, a generous stockpile of draft picks, including 4 first-rounders in 2025 alone, and most importantly, an urgent need to bridge the gap between potential and competitiveness. For Kaminga, a move to Brooklyn would mean much more than just a change of jersey. It would represent a real chance to become a cornerstone for a team betting on the future rather than the present. Behind the scenes, the Nets' interest isn't new. Even before last year's trade deadline in October, rumors had circulated about Kuminga's difficulties and the Warriors' inability to reach an extension agreement. Without a new contract, it was only a matter of time before both sides' interests started to drift apart. The arrival of Butler only accelerated this process. The Warriors' financial landscape doesn't help either. With Curry, Butler, and Green together set to account for over $137 million next season, keeping Kaminga has become an almost impossible challenge, especially knowing that other teams, including Brooklyn, are expected to present aggressive offers as soon as free agency opens. But this story isn't just about salaries or tactical fit. It's about opportunity. The opportunity to showcase his value. The opportunity to grow. To claim the role he's always dreamed of, and above all, to prove he can be more than a rotation piece in a star-studded roster. For the Warriors, the math is simple but painful. Either continue to bet on Kuminga's development and risk losing him for nothing, or cash in now and turn his value into new assets that can enhance Curry, Butler, and Green's championship window. For the Nets, the move is almost obvious. Acquire a talent who has yet to reach his ceiling, whose athleticism and versatility could fit into virtually any system, and most importantly, a player who is highly motivated to prove he belongs among the league's elite. Now, picture this. You, a Warriors fan, watching Kaminga shine for another franchise, playing 35 minutes a night, leading a young core, while Golden State remains trapped by the limitations of an aging roster. Or imagine the opposite. Kuminga stays, adapts, and becomes a final piece of the puzzle in yet another championship run. Which version of the story do you prefer? That's the dilemma that makes the NBA so fascinating. The line between building for the future and chasing a title in the present is thin and often cruel. Now I want to know, if you were the Warriors general manager, what would you do? Would you bet everything on Kuminga's development, or embrace pragmatism and trade him while his value is at its peak? Let me know your opinion in the comments, because this debate is about to heat up. What if I told you that the Golden State Warriors might be facing a decision that could define not only the next chapter of the franchise, but also the legacy of Stephen Curry in the NBA? What if I told you that, after a cycle marked by trophies, dynasties, and playoff miracles, the Warriors now find themselves forced to make a tough choice and name a competitive survival? All of this revolves around a name that's been increasingly echoing behind the scenes: Zack LaVine. The sound of the final buzzer against the Los Angeles Clippers last Sunday meant more than just another loss. It echoed like a warning. The truth is, the Warriors, even after acquiring Jimmy Butler, still haven't found the kind of stability that turns strong regular seasons into conference finals appearances, nor the balance needed to go head-to-head with the Western Conference's emerging superpowers. Now, with a spot secured only in the play-in, the front office knows that without structural changes, the team could remain trapped in this competitive limbo, good enough to compete, but not strong enough to win. And for a franchise that built its identity on dynasties and super teams, that scenario is simply unacceptable. Since February, when Butler landed in San Francisco and breathed new life into the season, it became clear that the Warriors had pulled off something rare. They managed to rejuvenate their competitive spirit without giving up veteran experience. But even with his immediate impact, the roster began to show signs of wear and limitations. And this is exactly where Jonathan Kuminga's situation starts to take on a dramatic tone. Drafted in 2021 as part of the long-term plan to transition from the Curry era, Kuminga had long been seen as a symbol of the bridge between generations. A player with elite athleticism, fluid footwork, and the potential to become a true two-way star. But as time passed, his development didn't match the front office's expectations. And with Butler's arrival, the reality became unavoidable. Kaminga lost his spot. His minutes dropped, his role was reduced, and the lineups featuring Draymond, Butler, and Kaminga just didn't work. The fit wasn't natural. And in the NBA, that often becomes a trade sentence. Meanwhile, just 150 kilometers away in Sacramento, another name was starting to steal the spotlight. Zach LaVine, formerly of the Chicago Bulls, had finally been freed from the franchise's endless rebuild cycle and began wearing Kings colors after a multi-team deal that shook the league just days before the trade deadline. In Chicago, LaVine was a star without a stage, an offensive talent with an almost limitless arsenal, three-point shooting, mid-range mastery, and explosive drives to the rim. But the context he was trapped in had always limited his true potential. With the Kings, LaVine finally got the stage he deserved. And in 31 regular season games, he proved what many analysts have been saying for years. His ceiling is even higher than most people imagined. He averaged 22.6 points, shot 51% from the field, and a remarkable 44% from three-point range. Performances that helped Sacramento secure its spot in the play-in, even amid the usual ups and downs of a team still under construction. But what few have noticed is that behind the scenes, the Kings might not see him as the final piece of a championship puzzle. At 29 years old, LaVine is at his peak, but Sacramento, armed with valuable draft assets and a promising young core, may prefer to maximize his trade value now, before the window starts to close. And that's where the story connects back to the Warriors. For Golden State, the opportunity is clear. LaVine would be the third star the team has been desperately seeking. Someone who could share the load on off nights from Curry or step up in the playoffs when defenses shut down the team's primary options. He would fit perfectly into the Warriors' spacing system, adding an athletic, high-volume scorer they've lacked since Kevin Durant's departure. For this trade to happen, Kuminga seems like the most logical piece to be involved. Young, athletic, and still full of untapped potential, he fits the profile Sacramento values. On paper, the trade makes sense for both sides. Golden State fast-tracks its short-term ambitions, and Sacramento strengthens its long-term foundation. What's most intriguing about this potential trade is that, deep down, it reflects a classic NBA dilemma. Bet on the present or build for the future. The Warriors, with Curry, Butler, and Draymond all approaching the twilight of their careers, must think about the present. Sacramento, on the other hand, can afford to build for the long haul around its emerging stars, and Kaminga could be the spark for that transition. And it's not just about fit on the court. It's also about financial realities. The Warriors' salary cap is already under extreme pressure, with Curry, Butler, and Green set to make over $137 million combined next season. Re-signing Kaminga in the upcoming offseason could become financially unfeasible, especially with other franchises, like the Kings, ready to offer him a significant payday. Sacramento, with more flexibility and a clear interest in young talent, could preemptively solve that puzzle and avoid the risk of losing LaVine for nothing. And so, the summer of 2025 is shaping up to be the stage for yet another dramatic plot twist in the NBA. The decision the Warriors make in the coming weeks could mean the difference between keeping their championship dreams alive or watching their window close right before their eyes. Now I want to know, if you were in charge of the Warriors, would you risk Kuminga's future to bring LaVine and form an offensive trio with Curry and Butler? Or would you believe that Kuminga still has what it takes to explode and become the next big star in the Bay? Leave your opinion in the comments, hit that like button, and subscribe to the channel. Because in the coming days, the NBA trade saga is only going to heat up, and I'll be right here to break down every detail for you.